Okay. All right, welcome everybody. It's a regular Town of Queensbury Town Board meeting. The date is June 7th, 2021. The time is 7:02 p.m. Would you all please rise and join Councilperson George Barone in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you. The first item on our agenda is a public discussion of site characterization and the remedial investigation feasibility study of the Queensbury landfill area. Should it be the town or should it be DEC? So tonight, we're here to seek your opinions on the matter and to consider that your opinions as we debate which entity would be the best entity for all of us to pursue this characterization study, or investigation as we might call it. First of all, John Monsey sent some updates based on email correspondence with the New York State DEC. 19 private residents are being provided with bottled water for consumption purposes based on this nominal increase, 18 to 19, over the last couple of weeks. The area of identified groundwater contamination is assumed to be approximately the same as previously estimated. And New York State DEC is in the receipt of groundwater testing results for the Sibagagi landfill. Once these results are provided to the owner, they will be made available to the public. I have made a formal FOIL request on behalf of the town for this information. McLaughlin C&D landfill groundwater results are expected any day. And once the Sibagagi and McLaughlin C&D landfill results are in, I will forward to the town team in short order. Okay. So that's the only update that I have. But, and tonight I have a resolution. If the town board, after hearing everything that everybody has to say, feels strong enough for one way or the other, I have a resolution that allows us to go one way or the other. Should the town board feel strong enough in their conviction to go one way or the other tonight. If not, it would have to be perhaps at another time, but let's see. So let me open up to the public who is here first, then anybody on Zoom. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can call in, area code 518-761 8225. And do you have that number, Peter, on the screen anyway? Okay. And,
John,
yeah.
Council Shackner said, would you please let him in? He's trying to get into the meeting.
I thought it was this week when I come in. Not only that, but I send them the ones that automatically make them panelists.
You let Megan Ryan in.
Oh, okay.
In between it then. Sorry, Megan.
I mean,
What the heck was that?
Megan, you may have to come back in. I mean, you made a mistake. Just come back in. Sorry. So,
It's at the top of the list.
All right. Mark, can you hear us?
I can now. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right.
You just let me in as a panelist. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I sent you the invite as a panelist, but you came in through the attendees. It's okay.
All right, great. Thanks a lot.
All right. So let's go. If you would please introduce yourself for the record, and then we want to hear what you have to say.
Yes, good evening. My name is Noel Harding, and I'm here representing several of the neighbors in the Jenkinsville area. I met with them recently, and we got together to discuss what our opinions were, so I wanted to take this opportunity to convey that to all of the town board members. But before I get started with that, I'd like to ask some questions, if that's appropriate. In the May informational update from the town, it was stated that at the May 17th board meeting, we, the residents, were going to hear a couple of different things. One was discussion from our town leaders regarding the pros and cons of the town taking the lead on the site characterization. And the second thing was information regarding what you have learned from your lawyers and advisors regarding whether the town can be proactively involved should the DEC take the lead. And we didn't hear regarding these two items, so I was wondering if you have anything to share at this point in time.
No, I believe that at that time, I read from context that was supplied to me by the team that are studying the matter and updating me, and I did read the updates as provided. You know, much of that was DEC information, and but there wasn't any debate. But I did provide that, I believe, at that meeting, the updates that we knew at the time. At the time. So the same thing with yours. We're getting a better sound system put in here. Thank you, ma'am. And
So you don't have any information about the fact that you may or may not be able to be proactively involved should the DEC take the lead? That was one of the questions that was posed in that newsletter.
I think we are allowed, John Muncie or Mark Schachner or Mark Pean may want to chime in. I believe if we allow the DEC, if that's the direction this town board wishes to go, and the public too, allow them to be lead agency, for lack of a better term, on this investigation, or as they call it, characterization, I think we do have a significant input on that. So if any of the Jenkinsville team wishes to speak to that, to supplement what I said, that's fine.
Well, I think originally we were even hoping to do a joint characterization, but that is not on the table any longer. It's either going to be the DEC or the town. I mean, that there was some hope that there would be, that kind of activity, but that's not in DEC's job right now.
Okay.
And I believe the DEC at the meeting, they told us we could participate with John and Mark and team in their review. So I don't know if that meets your intention, but
Okay.
that's how we're going to participate and be part of the review.
Okay.
If we decide to go that way.
And do you have any estimates on a potential timeline for completing the site characterization? Maybe I missed that at the last meeting.
Well, we asked the DEC for timelines. And to my knowledge, we didn't get anything specific. John Muncie, you probably have the most connection with the DEC. Do you remember getting anything specific from the DEC about timeline?
We offered up a potential timeline of between 1.5 to 3 years, and DEC said that perhaps that seems reasonable, but perhaps it might take longer than that to get through the full RIFS process.
That's the best we can do.
Okay.
All right. Megan, Kenya. Megan. I'm good, but we're in a segment where the people who are present can ask questions or contribute thoughts. And in a short while, I'll give people who are watching us through YouTube or otherwise the opportunity to call in about the Jenkinsville thing. Okay? Yeah, please call me back in a little bit. I will say now call-ins, and that's if you'll call in at that time. Thank you. Oh, okay, thanks. Bye. Sorry.
That's okay. Are there any additional updates on the initiative to determine options for bringing a clean water supply into the neighborhood?
That's part of the whole study. Part of the whole study is, as I said, it's a site characterization and remedial investigation. How do we remedy this? That's part of it.
Okay.
But there is a separate effort to update the 1999 proposal. We
In
voted
the
that, didn't we?
meantime, we've asked CT Mal to update the 1999 extension of water service to Jenkinsville so that, should that be the best remediation, we're prepared to do that. We've done our studies, we got the facts, we got our ducks in a row, kind of.
And I'm assuming that hasn't been completed yet?
No, talking government.
Okay.
It takes a while. I don't mean to make fun of it, but, it does take time.
Sure. Last question. We know that the town uses BN Communications to communicate to the residents. Do you know if the DEC were to take the lead, how that communication would occur? Would it still be through BN or some other means?
Good question. DEC, to my knowledge, has made somewhat of an effort to get to some of the Jenkinsville people, especially the ones that they've identified exceeding their levels of 1,4-dioxane. We're certainly going to make every effort to make sure you have all the knowledge that comes from the DEC, and if you're not satisfied with that, you're welcome to FOIL anything that comes before us, and any records that we have are public records. You're entitled to. So, yeah, we'll make every effort to keep you informed and to be open and honest throughout this whole process. And I think we've shown that that's our intention.
So now I'll get to our thoughts and feelings about the site characterization and who would be the lead agency. As I mentioned, I met with the residents recently,
Set yours up, John. I'll push it over.
and we discussed it, and pretty much we all agreed on the same elements that I'm going to outline now. But what we agreed on was that we feel the DEC should be the lead agency for the site characterization of the Queensbury Town landfill. And our reasons are as follows. Number one, this appears to be a conflict of interest. The town has a vested interest in the results of this site characterization, which could ultimately have a significant financial impact for the town. CT Mail is not an independent third party without bias, as they would be paid by the town to perform this function. We know that the DEC would still oversee the site characterization, even if the town was the lead, but this still does not allay any fears of potential impropriety or bias. The DEC, however, does not have a vested interest in the outcome of the site characterization, and in our eyes will be a completely impartial resource for doing that characterization. The second reason we feel the DEC should be the lead agency is this town and CT Mail do not have any significant experience in performing site characterizations. The DEC, however, has a great deal of experience and has done this multiple times. They also have the resources to perform this function efficiently and impartially. The third reason, the town needs to focus on the needs of its citizens and the needs of the town outside of this site characterization. The resources and time that would potentially be consumed by taking on such a role would be better utilized, we feel, carrying on the business of the town. And finally, we feel the town should be more focused on potential solutions to the problem rather than the source of the contamination. We know the contamination exists and needs to be remediated. What we think the priority of the town board should be is determining options, costs, timelines, et cetera, for obtaining a clean water supply. And if it is determined that the source of the contamination is from another landfill, then certainly the town can recover any costs for the preliminary work. So those are our thoughts.
Very good thought. All right, thank you, Mr. Harding. Anybody else here wish to speak? I know Mr. Harding spoke for many, if not all of you here. That's understood and appreciated. Okay, is there anybody who is attending through Zoom? You can raise your hand. There's one chat here, right?
Right, from Christine Tucker. Where'd you go? Oh, there it is.
And that's from who?
Christine Tucker?
Christine Tucker? Christina T. Okay. Some of my neighbors are receiving bottled water, but my family is having to purchase bottled water, which is of course very costly. My water test came back at acceptable levels, but it is reasonable to think my well point can become contaminated at some point. To my knowledge, there is not going to be any follow-up testing, so how do I best protect my family going forward? That's a very good question for DEC, and if you email me that question, I'll make sure the DEC gets you an answer directly from the DEC. Christina, if you can do that, because I don't have an answer to that. I think I would feel the same if I was in your shoes. So. Okay. Anybody else? And do you see anybody else on the attendees?
No, they haven't. No chats or no raised hands.
All right, call in. Was it Megan? Megan, if you can call in now, area code 518-761-8225. Or anybody that wants to call in. Just have caller ID, that's all. Well, I know she intended on calling back. 2 new messages. Oh, can you provide me the email?
I'm doing it now.
Oh, okay,
I
thanks.
spelled it wrong.
Gary Crossman.
That's better.
Thank you, Noel, for speaking, and I would also like follow-up testing, okay? Understood. And then John S. at Queensbury.net.
That was my response to her.
Yeah, thank you. Call in, wasn't it Megan? well, feel bad about that. This is, call in, we'll be patient. And Zoom, if you want to raise a hand, or I can allow you to talk, or if you wish to type in the chat. And I understand Mr. Harding spoke for a lot of the residents up there. Well, maybe, Mr. Harding, you spoke for Megan, too. All right, well, while we're waiting, feel free to type in a question, raise a hand, call in. Tell more, let's talk about it.
Well, John, when this first came to light, well, when it was raised in the Post-Star, the publication said that there was a Superfund site and that the town was responsible for it. With your direction, we started asking questions about being able to look at the other landfills as well. Because what was first reported, it was total focus was on the town landfill. I am happy that over the last 2 months, DEC has agreed to look at the other landfills. So we've got that as part of the response now. And the discussion of Superfund, it's not a Superfund site. It's been, perhaps the contaminated dump will be labeled a Superfund site, but our site is not a Superfund site, the town dump. So I'm happy with the way the discussion went the last 2 months, and I can make my decision now in terms of moving forward, because we've got the town's interests are now being looked at by DEC as well, not just the town dump, but the town's interest by looking at the other 3 dumps. So I think where we are at now is we've got the DEC's acknowledgement that there are 3 other dumps, and they are going to look at them consecutively, not consecutively. So they're going to look at all 4 dumps at the same time. One DEC rep's looking at our dump, but there's the other 3 being investigated as well. So I'm happy the way the dialogue went, and I'm prepared to make a decision tonight.
Okay. Do you want to tell us what we're
Oh,
going
I would support the DEC doing the study.
Okay.
We're going to have our input between John and Mark. Okay, we got a comment, but
So you're leaning that way right now.
Check.
Of course, the discussion's not open, but you're kind of leaning that way. Oh, there we go. All right, I'll get to the rest of it. Here we have Pam Reed. Hello. How do you do this stupid thing? Hello? Trying to be fancy. Pamela.
Close.
All right.
Hello?
Hello? Pamela? Pam? I finally got through.
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear us?
Okay, good, finally. Yes,
Pamela Reed, R-E-E-D. All right, Pamela. Would you share your thinking with us, please?
sure. There seems to be a lag in the phone, but
she might want to mute hers.
I wanted to mention that doesn't it seem that it is actually the companies or corporations that dumped the 1,4-dioxane or PFOA or whatever toxic chemicals into the Queensbury dump? They are actually the ones who should be held responsible, not the town of Queensbury.
Pamela,
Yeah.
part of our investigation is to find the source of the 1,4-dioxane, and we don't know what the source is at this time. We may never know. The bottom line is it's in the groundwater, it's in the wells, and something's got to be done. But you're right. If we find the source, the entities responsible for it should have to weigh in on this.
Yes, exactly. The town of Queensbury is not the one who dumped the toxic chemicals there whenever it was. And I believe the DEC did say that they would research back through the years to what had been dumped into the Queensbury landfill, and hopefully you would then be able to get to what corporations did dump. There were many, Ciba-Geigy and many other that had many toxic chemicals. So I hope that the research will go in that direction.
And I'm sure it will. We will research as much as possible what went, who dumped what and when. But at this time, do you have a preference for whom you think would make the best investigator, DEC, or the town?
Well, I listened very carefully to their presentations at the town board meeting, and it seemed to me that they would not be as open with the public as the town of Queensbury would be. And they said maybe an occasional newsletter to the public, and that they wouldn't be open to accepting outside sources of information. So if that proves not to be true, then I think it would be fine for DEC to handle it. But I think that the town of Queensbury just needs to make sure that they get to the source of the chemicals, and also that Bolisano had said that they would have to do separate site characterizations for each of the other landfills one by one, and that does not make sense to me.
Okay. You made some good points. Anything else?
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's all. I just wanted to make sure that the town of Queensbury really has adequate representation for their side in this.
All right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Pamela.
Bye.
Bye.
John, FYI, the folks on Zoom couldn't hear much of that. I think if you want to just sum up, or
Pam or Pema Reed seemed to have more trust in the town doing the characterization or the investigation, in that it would probably take a look at it in a more holistic, comprehensive way. Those weren't her words. That's kind of how I interpreted her words. Anything else?
well, she was also concerned that the source be identified, and we are all very interested in determining the source, but that'll be over the litigation. First, we want to identify the source and then move forward, and then we'll let the investigators try to identify the source.
Yeah.
But let's be clear, the town of Queensbury used that for landfill, so, I mean, who is the town of Queensbury, right? I mean, the people dump their garbage in there for years, and it's been closed for more than 20 years, right?
Clear.
I don't think we could peel away
Everyone
the
in the
onion.
region dumped there,
Right, right,
not just Queensbury.
okay,
And the records don't exist.
Right.
So it would be tough to determine it. But her point was she'd like to identify, and I think we all would, but I'm not sure if that's possible.
right.
Yeah, but are we gonna go back to the companies that made the shampoos and all these other products that used that chemical that is probably in the dump? I mean, I don't think we're gonna have the opportunity to go back that far. I mean,
Right.
you're not gonna be able to tell that.
But that was her thing.
Yeah. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay, so I'm hoping we're going this way.
Okay, that's fine, George.
No, I mean, what I wanted to say was I appreciate everyone who's been working with us and speaking with us over these many, many weeks. I think Mr. Harding said everything very succinctly this evening in terms of what they're looking for and the reasoning behind they would like to see DEC take this role, and my thoughts are along those same lines. There's a lot that we will continue to do. I think that our role would be to make sure that DEC stays on a good path in terms of getting this done, hopefully sooner than later. I think that's in everybody's best interest. And I would be for...
Recording in progress.
Okay. And I would be for letting DEC do the characterization.
I heard you.
Okay, I know you.
And I was also straightening out.
I heard you, yep.
All right, thank you, George. Harrison?
Harrison?
So, again, Mr. Harding, I appreciate your insights. I've been leaning toward having DEC do it pretty much since the get-go, but we were trying to make sure we didn't poison the well, if you will, in terms of you guys being open and having that kind of discussion. So, I too think that DEC, for not all of the reasons that you outlined, because I do want to point out, in my opinion, that DEC doesn't have the same vested interest that the town of Queensbury does. However, DEC, I believe, does have some vested interest here that we, the town board, want to keep them honest about, right? And so this is emergent contaminants, right? I mean, this is something that New York State is trying to, stay out in front of, because our legacy is not good with regard to, these kind of contaminants. And so I think there's a big push from the state to actually lead the country and the world in figuring out if 1,4-dioxane, is as bad at what levels, and to make those. So in some ways, I think we're sort of canaries in the coal mine, right? I think that if we tested 100 wells in other Queensbury neighborhoods, the chances of us finding 20% of them with small levels of 1,4-dioxane are very, very high. And so I worried, as some of us did, that getting labeled, a Superfund site was way premature by DEC, but, DEC's got their own agenda, right? I mean, they want to look like they're the heroes after, we can go back to Love Canal if you want, and New York State's not so great a reputation with regard. So I'm happy that I think there's going to emerge a consensus that DEC is the right agency at the right time to take a look at this project, and that we'll identify other potential sources of these emerging contaminants. I'm actually happy that they haven't found any of the PFAS in any of the residents. And I think that's a very good, so far so good outcome. But these are emergent contaminants. The state set very, very low thresholds for good reason, and in the neighborhood of caution. And I think that us figuring out how to get clean water ASAP out that way as soon as possible, as soon as practical, is a good thing for the town to focus on, and I think I think we all are in that mode. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have much more to add. I agree with all of you. That I do also feel the DEC should be in charge of it, to oversee it. If for nothing else, depending on the results, there'll be no questions that we, at the town, did anything wrong, which I know we wouldn't, but it doesn't matter. People may feel that way anyway, so I think to have the DEC remain involved is the right move for all of us. Mr. Harding, I hope you understand. I mean, everything that you said, I know we all agree with. Absolutely. There's no question in my mind, so.
Ditto for me, I agree with Mr. Harding. So it's pretty clear. When we get to resolution 414, we'll make it clear.
Okay.
Unless some argument comes up between now and then.
I was a little worried about the one woman that spoke, but I think that, you know,
Well, maybe Mr. Harding said something that she was going to say.
Right, no, it's all good. I think.
Well, we're
making the right
monitoring it,
choice.
and if she calls, I'll take it. I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Harding, but when we have, trying to be as open as we possibly can, it has its challenges. Ma'am?
The screen was blank, and there were some other questions up there prior to that going blank.
It was all about the hearing of the, I haven't watched it, it was all about the hearing of the audio. Do you know if Mud Pond has been tested yet by DEC? John? Oh, I'm sorry, John. Can John Muncy ask?
Yeah, no testing of mud pond has been done by DEC to date. It's assumed that they're in the site characterization phase, you know,
I'm sorry, I
that
found something.
surface water and sediments would be tested.
Okay, and there's a question, has DEC provided the test results for the Jenkinsville Park?
I think the answer is yes. We were provided
We were provided those, yes.
those.
Yes, we have those results that were provided by the town for the 4 wells at the Jenkinsville Park. And one of the 4 wells had 1.4 dioxane above the 1 part per billion. The 3 other wells did not.
And they haven't used that well for drinking water in memory.
Right.
And it was right sort of at the, so it was sort of unremarkable was the term that ISO used.
Is that what you saw, those questions? I don't see any
I
more.
couldn't see them, I just saw that there was
Okay,
more.
there's a lot of questions about the audio, but I think I've gone through it now, that's all I've seen.
Okay, thanks. Anything else from the audience? All right. Any of our team want to say something at this time before I move on to the other agenda?
I might seek to throw in 2 cents here if people can hear me clearly. Can I be heard clearly?
Yeah, this is Town Council Mark Shackler speaking. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd like to, right, the only thing I'd like to add is really for the benefit of whatever public are watching or listening. You know, I've been involved in a number, not a large number, a small number, but a number of similar proceedings involving DEC over the better part of the last 40 years. And DEC is more accustomed to dealing with private parties being the ones that are the owners of the properties being investigated that are municipalities. And I think I at least have been impressed with how hard our team, and especially the town board members, but others, John Muncy, Mark Bean, myself, and the town board members, Chris Harrington, have, how adamant we've tried to be with DEC to recognize that we are a fellow governmental entity. We're not private industry, although they're the state governmental entity, we're the local governmental entity. I think we tried to impress upon them that they shouldn't turn their backs on us during if they do the characterization, they shouldn't turn their backs on us and refuse to share information. And my impression is we've made some progress in that regard. I think we're likely to get a better level of cooperation with DPC than private industry might, in part because the town board members and the rest of us have really fought for that to happen. So for the benefit of the public, I think the town board members are really fighting hard to make sure that as much information as possible is repeated and shared.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. All right, well, when we get the resolutions, another opportunity to speak if you think of something else. All right, in the meantime, we've got to go into the Board of Health. We've got 6 items to deal with. And after that, we have a public hearing on the application New York State Office of Community Renewal Development Block Grant, and Stu Baker is here to present that. So let's do the Queensbury Board of Health items first. If there is a motion to enter into the Queensbury Board of Health, please make so.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Brown, seconded by Councilperson McNulty. All those in favor of moving into the Queensbury Board of Health, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. We're now into the Queensbury Board of Health. So, Karen, our first item, please, would you inform the public?
Sure. It's a public hearing on a sewage disposal variance application of Michael Chase, Dark Bay Lane LLC.
What did you do?
All right. So, Michael
I
Chase, and this is
On
for
the
40
couple
Dark
of
Bay
cameras.
Lane. We did a site visit,
I think you all received it.
and we made some suggestions for a more protective, more enhanced system, which we did get plans for today. And so, please identify yourself, and you may speak to the application, please.
This is Brandon Ferguson from Environmental Design. I'm here tonight with Michael Chase, who's the owner of the property. As you stated there, this property is located on Dark Bay Lane. There is an existing house on the property. He's looking to remodel the house, add a garage and stuff to it, and as part of the remodeling, he's looking to upgrade the septic system. The existing septic system is located in the approximate location of what we're proposing. We don't know the exact size of it. There's like a 1,000-gallon concrete tank. And then we did hit the field a little bit when we were digging around, but we don't know exactly what the field is. So with the new septic system, we are proposing a algae trench system. And when we met with you guys out there last Thursday, we kind of talked things over, and you had brought up the separation distance to bedrock, as well as the enhanced treatment because of the location to the proximity to the wells. So we did add a Claris fusion tank, which is a hand treatment unit, and then we did raise the system up a foot in order to get to 3 feet to bedrock. So the variances we're asking for at this point, I believe, are the separation distance to his proposed well, the separation distance to the location of the neighbor's well, and the side yard.
And Brandon, if I might, you also added an effluent disinfection system, a Salcor 3 GUV,
Yes, you're correct.
or equivalent. That's very good. Because here you have a pre-treatment system, to your credit, a Fusion 450, enhanced treatment unit that does aerobic and anaerobic. And Claris, the company that makes this product, claims that the water going to the UV is almost drinkable already through the process it goes through, although I don't find any volunteers for that. However, that being said, this pre-treatment system is probably one of the best. There are other good ones though. and then it goes through UV. So the pathogens are taken care of there, and then it goes to an advanced filtration bed, the Elgin system. So given the site limitations, the bedrock and everything, I think you did a good job. But we do have a public hearing on this, and so we may see. Anything you'd like to add, Brendan?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, any thoughts before we open the public hearing?
No, I think they did everything that they said that they would do the day that we did the site visit, so.
I think so too.
Actually, just for the record, John, I was out there today and got sort of an overview of what was going on.
Okay.
Talked to Mrs. Chase.
All right. Okay, so, anybody from the public wish to speak to this application? Michael Chase, for Dark Bay Lane, 40 Dark Bay Lane. And they're asking for 3 variances, 65 foot from the proposed well instead of the required 100-foot setback. Leaching system wall, 73 feet from a neighboring well and no other required 100-foot setback. And leaching system wall, 9 foot from property line and no other required 10-foot retaining wall within 1.5 feet of the property line, okay? Those are the variances being sought. Is there anybody on Zoom? Anybody watching YouTube can call in at area code 518-761-8225. Anybody present wish to speak to this variance request? All right, Brendan, I think you did a good job. Any other thoughts before we go to a motion?
Just need to close the public hearing.
I'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Karen. All right, motion to approve? All right, Councilperson Medavere, second by Councilperson Freer. Roll call vote on this, please, Karen.
Councilperson Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
McNulty?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Medavere?
Yes. All right. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, next, 1.2, Karen, please.
Sure. Public hearing sewage disposal variance application of Brett and Pamela West, 106 Bay Parkway Road.
All right, the only variance they're asking for is to be allowed to put a holding tank in lieu of a septic system. Which, you know, I tend to like. I've announced this to the public before. I know where it is, I know where it's not, I know where it's going. And it goes away from Lake George to a treatment facility. And it's very safe if you're in situations where you think you need this kind of arrangement. But if you want to introduce yourself to the public record and then elaborate further, please do so.
Thank you, John. I'm Dennis McElroy with Environmental Design, representing Pam and Brett West on actually 2 applications. There's a second lot involved as well. We'll start with 106. This is out at the north end, the tip of Assembly Point. There's an existing structure. On some of the documents that are part of the application, you saw a site plan which indicates house location. That will be actually for a future house. The existing house would be removed and a new house constructed. Based on their knowledge of the property, their concerns about the lake, the water quality and whatnot, they've really suggested to me and wanted to use a holding tank system on the property. If there was an on-site system, there would be variances involved. So instead of pursuing that, they felt comfortable with the holding tank situation. It's, as John indicates, it's should be foolproof as far as capturing all that wastewater and it gets trucked away. So there's not something that is reliant on further treatment and discharge to the native soils. So that, and we've provided two 2,000-gallon tanks for a 4,000-gallon capacity of holding, which is in compliance with Queensbury's requirements for a holding tank system, as well as an alarm system that would give 2 different alarm levels, notifying the owners of when they've reached certain capacity and when they reach a full tank, at which time also there's a mechanism that shuts off the water supply. So no more water can be used, no more water can be delivered to the house once you reach that maximum capacity of the tanks. So that is for 106 Bay Parkway. And should we leave it at that for this vote and then?
We'll do them one at a time.
Yes.
All right. Any questions to the applicant's agent?
Yeah, so Dennis, my question is, what is the expected life of one of these holding tanks, or the holding tanks?
A concrete tank, it's similar to a septic tank, which could have a modern septic tank certainly would have a lifetime of 30, 40 years.
Okay. So, but they don't publish that in terms of these holding tanks, an expected life, or?
A holding tank is the same construction as a septic tank. These technically are septic tanks, but the outlet port is sealed off, yes.
Okay, so, but they don't publish an expected life?
Well, I guess the figure that I would use in what I've heard is certainly 30 years plus.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about septic tanks, or particularly older septic tanks, was the concrete baffles that used to break down. But now those aren't really used. You use plastic baffle T, a plastic pipe that delivers the effluent or the sewage into the tank.
So I had a question about this, John, and I called Chris Novinsky and said, why does New York State not really favor holding tanks? And because we had that question on the zoning board before, and Chris's answer was enlightening to me, and I'd like to just share it with in that his sense is the reason New York State doesn't favor holding tanks is because if you need a holding tank, it potentially shouldn't be a buildable lot. In this case, it's a retrofit, so he was fine with the fact that a holding tank on a retrofit lot made sense. And as I drove by today, I kind of said, well, maybe the second version of that applies to 108. But as I understand, there was a house there already. So, but that apparently is the logic of why New York State doesn't allow us to, write into the code that holding tanks are good to go. You want to comment on that, Dennis?
Yeah, my experience has been that Department of Health 75A is geared toward or simply for new construction.
Right.
When we talk, that's why you have jurisdiction over what happens around the lake on so many of these replacement systems. Health Department, they don't want anything to do with replacement systems.
Right.
So the regulations speak to, under holding tanks, really speak to new construction, and that's why it's discouraged or perhaps not allowed under their regulations, except in temporary cases where there may be a future municipal system down the line that would be connected to.
Well, I also think it's a unique situation in that this particular set of properties is on a peninsula that's practically surrounded on 3 sides by water. So I'm sure while it may have been able to fit, it would be difficult to get 2 separate septic systems on the property.
Yes, there would be variances required, but I can't stand here and say that that's terrible, because other times I've been here asking for just that.
Well, there's also, as I recall from a zoning board discussion on this property, an intermittent stream that's on the north side there, which is another challenge for...
Correct, and we didn't really discuss that at the site the other day, but there's a drainage way. I don't know whether I'd characterize it as a stream, but a
Okay.
drainage way that drains the interior north part of Assembly Point
Right.
on the O'Keefe border. So that's another factor that I'm sure the Wests were
Aware
concerned
of.
about and aware of, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant's agent before I open the public hearing?
Mark's coming.
Yes. Town Council, Shackner?
I'm in from town council. Yeah, I mean, just in terms of why the state disfavored holding tanks, going back several decades, traditionally they were disfavored also because in what I call the olden days, the days of yore, the technology for the warnings and making sure it doesn't get overflowed and shut up, and the shut off and all that has advanced quite substantially. There were horror stories of decades ago of holding tank failures that are largely prevented through the improvements in the design of the systems themselves. But historically, that's another reason the state disfavored.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody present wish to speak to this application? Anybody in Zoom? I don't see anybody. You, Tim? All right, call in. YouTube. Area code 518-761-8225.
On your screen, I don't know what that says. Oh, that's good. Okay.
All right, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Brown,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilperson Freer. Roll call vote on this, please, Karen.
Sure. Councilperson Ferone?
Yes.
McNulty?
Yes.
Straugh?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and Karen, if you'll introduce the next, and I guess Dennis, you might as well hang there.
Sure. Public hearing sewage disposal variance application of Brett and Pamela West, West Point South LLC, 108 Bay Parkway Road.
Okay, so again, the only variance being requested here is to have holding tank, two 2,000-gallon septic holding tanks in lieu of a septic disposal system. And again, like the other one, it's got all the bells and whistles and alarms and safeguards. The water shuts off at certain levels and everything else. As Councilperson Shackner pointed out, modern technology is better enabled this than when the 75A was originally envisioned. Okay, anything else you would like to say on that?
Just for the record, Dennis McElroy with Environmental Design. This is the property at 108, which is immediately to the south of the West residents. They were able to purchase this property a couple of years ago. There was a single-family residence on it up until last year, and that was, or late 2019, I guess, it was torn down. So this is a replacement house on that smaller lot of the two. This one is even more restrictive in its ability to site an on-site wastewater system. We propose the two 2,000-gallon tanks for a 4-bedroom capacity as required by Queensbury. So it's a similar situation as before, but actually in this case, the lot presents itself as even more restrictive.
Any questions from the board before I open the public hearing? Public hearing, anybody present wish to speak to this variance application for 108 Bay Parkway Road, owned by Brett and Pamela West? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody want to do a call in? 518-761-8225. none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Moved by Councilperson Medevere and seconded by Councilperson McNulty. A roll call vote on that, please, Karen?
Sure. Councilperson McNulty?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
All right.
Great.
You'll thank Brett and Pamela Plus for doing the right thing. I think with their property, that's good for Lake George.
Thank you very much.
All right, 1.4, please, Karen.
Sure. Resolution setting public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of Robert Stevens.
All right, Robert Stevens of 128 Sunnyside North wishes to put in a holding tank, a 4,000-gallon septic holding tank in lieu of a sewage disposal system on property located, again, at 128 Sunnyside North. 2 variances are being requested, 25-foot from his well in lieu of the 50-foot setback and 46 from his neighbor's well instead of the required 50-foot setback. And again, it's for a holding tank. And it's to set a public hearing for June 21st, Monday, June 21st, right here in this room, shortly after 7. Anybody that wishes to speak to this, there'd be a public hearing on it if that's set for tonight. All right, a motion to set the public hearing on this application for June 21st, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Brown, seconded by Councilperson Freer. Roll call vote on setting the public hearing, please. Karen?
Councilperson Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
McNulty?
Yes. 1.5, please, Karen.
Resolution granting Nicole and Joseph Pickering extension of time to complete wastewater system alterations on property located at 3 Palmer Drive.
Okay, this is part of our property transfer law, and we have the owner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's part of our property transfer law is to have these systems inspected and to replace them or upgrade them or fix them, whatever is needed. And you are Joe Pickering?
I am Joe Pickering. I live at 3 Palmer Drive.
And we already gave you one extension, but you're asking for another extension the end of 2021.
That is correct.
Probably because you're having the same problem everyone else is getting somebody to do the job.
Absolutely. It's a nightmare.
I know.
We have a contractor. We're just waiting. We contact him, a couple times a week, and his answer to us is, "I'll get there when I get there. You're on the list." That's about all I can say. I told him I was coming tonight. I asked for a reason that I could maybe give to you guys, and he said I could give COVID, I could give the weather, and he said, and lack of help. So.
But Joe, I'm hearing this all over.
I'm sure. So.
Any
if that is too long, we're willing to compromise. We just, we're looking for an extension, just to get it done. Basically.
Well, this is to the end of the year to get it done, and between now and December.
Right. He did say June 11th, but we've also heard May 16th and April 22nd or something like that.
Yeah.
So we just keep getting pushed farther and farther back, and we'd really appreciate the extension.
All right, any questions for Mr. Pickering?
No. Nope.
All right, motion to approve or grant the Pickering extension of time
So moved.
for 3 Palmer Drive to the end of the year, moved by Councilperson Freer, seconded by Councilperson Brown. Roll call vote on this, please.
Councilperson Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
McNulty?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with it. All right, last item for the Board of Health. Please, Karen, introduce it to the public.
Resolution setting public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of Joshua's Rock Corporation.
All right, this is just to set the public hearing. It's for a property located on 3089 State Route 9L, also an area known as Joshua's Rock, owned by Joshua's Rock Corporation. And this is to set a public hearing for these variances that are being requested for the sewage disposal. Now, the public hearing will be at a town board meeting Monday, June 21st. They are asking for two variances, the absorption bed to be 75 foot from the well instead of the required 100-foot setback, and the septic tank to be 45 foot from the well instead of the required 50-foot setback. And again, this is to set the public hearing for June 21st. Is there a motion to set the public hearing?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson McNulty,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilperson Brown. Roll call vote on this, please.
Councilperson Freer?
Yes.
Barone?
Yes.
McNulty?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yeah.
Medevere?
Yes.
All right, that's it for the Board of Health. Is there anyone that would make the motion to move it out of the Queensbury Board of Health and back into the regular town board meeting?
I'll move it.
Moved by,
Second.
who was it?
Tony.
It was Tony.
Tony, Councilperson Medevere, seconded by Councilperson Freer. All those in favor of moving out of the Queensbury Board of Health, please signify by saying aye. 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 It appears to be unanimous. We're out of the Board of Health. Next to a public hearing. And Stu Baker is here. Stu Baker is the senior planner for the town of Queensbury, and he's going to give an overview of what we're doing here and why we're doing it. So I am going to share screen.
You've got something going up here, Stu?
Yeah, John is.
All right, I'll move out of the way.
Okay, Stu. Oh, what happened? Let me find out what happened. For some reason, we're getting a whole new system in here, folks. In case you're thinking we need one.
Here we go.
Doesn't like the internet connection either.
Got too many screens open.
All right, so, appears to be working.
Working rehearsal. There we go.
Okay, got it. Don't do anything.
Well, it's slow.
It is running slow.
Okay,
Well, let's jump into it.
yeah.
Good evening. Purpose of the public hearing tonight, you can go to the next slide, please, John. The purpose of the public hearing tonight is to discuss a possible CDBG grant application in the current consolidated funding application round. And we're proposing applying for Community Development Block Grant Public Infrastructure Funds. To those in attendance this evening, if you haven't done so already, there is a sign-in sheet for the public hearing over there. I would appreciate it if you signed in. One of the requirements of the grant application is to document attendance at these hearings. So the sign-in sheet is at the end of the table right there. The public hearing notice that's up on the screen was posted at the town clerk's office on May 18th and published in the Post-Star on May 21st. Next slide, please. Under the CDBG program, 2 public hearings are required. The first public hearing provides an opportunity for citizen and town board input. It outlines the CDBG grant application categories and includes a staff recommendation on a grant application for the current round. If a grant is awarded, a second public hearing is then required during the project to provide an update to the board and the public on progress to date. Next slide, please. In New York State, the majority of the Community Development Block Grant Program is actually run by the Office of Community Renewal in Albany. But going back to the origins, Community Development Block Grant Program originated with federal legislation back in 1974. The New York State CDBG program provides financial assistance to eligible cities, towns, and villages with populations under 50,000 and counties with an area population under 200,000. The New York State program is actually somewhat separate from the HUD-administered CDBG entitlement program, and that's the one that provides annual grants without the need for annual applications on a formula basis to entitlement cities and counties. Glens Falls is a local example of an entitlement community. Next slide, please. There we go. National objective of the CDBG program. Oh, I'm sorry, can you go back one more, John? There we go. The national objective of the CDBG program is the development of viable communities by providing decent housing and a supportive and a suitable living environment and expanded economic opportunities principally for persons of low and moderate income. A low and moderate income person is defined as being a member of a household whose income is less than 80% of the area median income for that household size. The principal benefit to low and moderate income persons means that a program funded with community development block grant funds must benefit at least 51% of the beneficiaries of the project must qualify as low and moderate income persons. Next slide, please. In this year, it's the 11th round of the New York State Consolidated Funding Application Program. In the CDBG category, there's up to $20 million available, broken down into three categories. Public infrastructure, which is the category we're looking at, public facilities, and community planning. The round 11 of the CFA will close at the end of July. The grant award range under public infrastructure is the difference between what's available to individual applicants, which is the $1 million figure, or if a applicant is actually working with the New York State co-funding initiative, meaning they're also applying for funds from other sources such as the Environmental Facilities Corporation. Then you can apply for up to $1.25 million. Next slide, please. I'll go over briefly the categories of funding available just for the board's and the public's information. Under public infrastructure, there's two funding activities. Drinking water, clean water, stormwater. That's for drinking water source development, storage and distribution. Sanitary sewage collection and treatment, or flood control and stormwater management. There's also public works under public infrastructure, and that's for public facilities such as streets, parking and parks, and publicly owned utilities. Next slide, please. Under public facilities, it also includes construction or renovation of public facilities that serve low and moderate income persons or special need populations, such as senior centers, child care centers, and removing architectural barriers for the disabled. Next slide, please. Under community planning, there's two types of activities that are funded: community needs assessment and preliminary engineering reports. Community needs assessments cover such things as public infrastructure and public facilities, as well as economic development. Preliminary engineering reports can be used towards drinking water projects, stormwater projects, or sanitary sewer projects. Next slide, please. Since 2001, the town of Queensbury has been fortunate to receive quite a lot of community development block grant funding. Housing in 2001, for community planning in 2003. That was actually for our first affordable housing strategy. Housing again in 2005 and 2008. In 2013, we received funds for economic development. Some may recall those were the funds that supported equipment purchase at the Davidson Brothers Brewery Company facility on Route 9, which is now Northway Brewery. And in 2017, we received community planning funds, which we used to update the affordable housing strategy. Next slide, please. At this point, I'd like to introduce Patrick Morris. He's the North Country Property Manager for CRM Rental Management. They are the rental management firm that works with the Montcalm Apartments on Burke Drive. And Pat is going to describe the issues that they've been facing at Montcalm Apartments, the population that they serve, and the proposed resolution to their problems that we hope to address with a successful CDBG application.
Thank you. I'm Pat Morris. I'm the property manager for Montcalm Apartments. I just wanted to, I could talk about this all night, but Stu said I had 5 minutes. It's been a long night. So I'm going to move right along. If anyone has any questions, just hop on in. So Montcalm has been sitting there paying taxes, doing its own thing for about 50 years. It was built in 1971. And it has a wastewater treatment plant. It's the only wastewater treatment plant that we have in our portfolio of about 65 apartment complexes across the state. And it has 1971 technology. There's no redundancy in it. It is built to the environmental standards at the time, which have changed, and it's just old, outdated plant. And the problem that we're having with it is it's putting out solids and effluent that it shouldn't be putting out. And we've changed engineering companies and we've changed wastewater treatment operators, and we have it into compliance. Occasionally, a day, once in a while, it'll go out of compliance, but we're generally in compliance. But it's a very difficult plant to maintain. And even when it's in compliance, we have a very significant odor problem. When it was built in the 1970s, the residential neighborhood wasn't like that. There wasn't the new housing development right up against it. And the odors just weren't there. So what we need to do is we need to eliminate the odors. We have a consent order from DEC requiring us to take certain steps to bring the plant as close to in compliance as we can get it with the current standards, but it's going to be difficult or almost impossible to do that. So what we would like to do is just eliminate the plant. Just to eliminate the plant, that eliminates the smells in the neighborhood, it eliminates the entire situation, and we'll put in a grinder pump on each of our buildings, do a low-pressure main, basically designed by Chris Harrington, putting the concept together how to do it, to take it up Burke Drive, hopefully skirt the edge of the school property, and get it over to Weeks Drive out behind Walmart. So it's going to be a complex project. It's going to be up over $1 million to do it. The grant that we're applying for would be $1 million. We would cover the rest of it. It's going to be a long-term permanent solution to the problem, eliminate the odors, eliminate, the plant. It's just something, we shouldn't have a plant there, so it's just the best thing we can do is to get rid of it. And I'd like to thank Stu and the supervisor. I mean, they've been helping us along and nurturing this along, and they've been very helpful getting us to where we are, because it's a close deadline coming up. It sort of came out of the blue and as we were just starting to talk about what to do with it. So
Question, how many residents are in there?
We've got 226 apartments there, just over 400 residents, a little bit of mix of everybody from senior citizens, disabled people, working families, just everybody you'd expect. We are a subsidized apartment complex or affordable apartment complex. Low mod eligibility is a big part of the block grant program. Out of our 226 families, 225 of them are low income by that definition.
Thank you.
So that's, that's a benefit. And we have a consent order, which, although it's bad for us, because there's a lot of stuff we need to do and fix it, and we're doing everything we can right now to do that, that actually helps in a grant application because it shows a serious level of the problem at the site.
Any other questions?
Did I do it in my 5 minutes?
You did it.
Okay.
Thank you. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
Actually, you can go ahead 2 slides.
Well, there's a lag.
Yep.
What I'm seeing, what you're seeing,
I know.
so go to the next.
So these are the Montcalm apartments for those that aren't familiar with them. They're on Burke Drive, which is south side of Aviation, approximately across from the school district. And one more slide.
Oh,
There it
it's
is.
coming.
Here we are. Now we're at the project area. And John, this is where I could use your help with the mouse, if you could. If you could show the location of yeah, the mouse is lagging too, so this will be difficult. But you're looking at exit 18 on the north.
19.
19, thank you. Exit 19, and as you go west, Burke Drive is I believe the second road on the left, or maybe the first, and that goes down to the Montcalm apartments. Directly north of there, on the north side of Aviation, there's the Montcalm apartments, and on the north side of Aviation is the Queensbury School District property. What we are studying with the town engineers is a sewer line that would go from the Montcalm apartments on Burke Drive up to Aviation, across Aviation, along the eastern boundary of the school district property, on an easement that would be on the school district property, to the west side of the Northway, approximately across from Weeks Road. At which point we would do directional drilling under the Northway to connect with the existing sewer at Weeks Road. This would be likely be about a 2-inch force main. 2 inches does not seem like much of a diameter for a sewer line, but on force mains, it's amazing what the capacity of that line will be. Chris Harrington, our water and sewer superintendent, has been involved with these discussions, and he was actually the one that suggested 2 inches being the likely appropriate size. So that is the project area. And we have been in discussions with the school district about an easement, and it's currently under discussion with their facilities committee. But thus far, the discussions have been good, and they've been looking favorably upon the idea of granting an easement. And it's especially attractive to them because it then provides them ready access to connect to public sewer if they ever just decide that's wanted or necessary for their campus. And again, the capacity would be there in the proposed line, although we'll know more about that as the engineering studies continue.
Still, would the 2-inch line be sufficient if the school jumped in on it as well?
It would, yeah, it would.
It's a forced main.
And again, the 2 inches is the current thinking. That may change, but Chris Harrington is confident 2 inches
So
could cover.
Montcalm Apartments, formerly called John Burke Apartments. We're looking to go up Burke Drive and then swing over to the school and up the fence line and then do a directional drill underneath the Northway and tie into the pump station at the end of Weeks Road. This is Weeks Road. So it's conceptual. And it's for design engineering review. And as Stu will probably tell you in a minute, CRM is, has already, has agreed to finance this whole thing. Although, as Stu, I don't want to take the strong way about the process and why CRM doesn't apply for the funding. We have to.
Yeah, well, municipalities are the eligible applicants for this. So that's why the town is the applicant. And John is correct. CRM has been paying the costs to date for the advanced engineering studies that are necessary prior to an application, as well as for the grant writing services. And you'll recall that the board approved an escrow agreement between the town and CRM for that purpose. And in fact, just earlier today, that executed escrow agreement arrived in the mail along with the check for the amount of that escrow. So we literally have the money in the bank at this point to pay for these advanced services needed for the grant application.
Stu, when would the grant be issued if we were to receive it?
Where would it be issued?
When would it be?
When would it be issued? It's hard to say. The grant deadline is end of July. It's varied year to year. It could be 2 months. It could be 4 or 5 months. I think before the new year is likely.
Traditionally, the applications going in now, they would receive notice on them as part of the consolidated funding sometime between just before Election Day and just before Christmas. That's sort of the window they announce them in. So they'll come out with an announcement at a press conference, followed by a couple of months later, an official notification on paper. At that point, there's a environmental review that's subject to both seeker and a federal review. That will take, if it's funded, and the federal one is called NEPA, it's seeker and NEPA. In my previous life, I was a grant writing consultant. So that'll take into the spring to get that done, then engineering coming after that. So a year from now, we wouldn't be under construction. So we would expect if it's funded, we'll know late this year with probably a full year before actually construction starts.
What's your contingency if you do not get the grant?
We don't have a good contingency. We don't have one. There are some alternatives if for some reason the line didn't work of building another plant or something along those lines, but financially being an affordable apartment complex, we really don't have the resources to do that. The line itself also, as Stu said, it's a 2-inch line. This is on grinder pumps, large size grinder pumps. A lot of people have them on their camps and stuff. It's a bigger version of them. And almost the entire thing will be directionally bored, so it's not going to be open trench interfering with traffic and stuff. To the extent possible, it's going to be horizontal boring on everything.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Okay, staff recommendation is that we apply for the CDBG, Public Infrastructure Funds, in the current CFA round to construct the sewer line and connection to serve the Montcalm apartments. The need is definitely there between the line benefiting a definitive low and moderate income population with the bonus of improving public health, safety, and welfare in light of the violations they've experienced with their sewer treatment system. We think it's a very strong application. So that is the staff recommendation. And final slide, please. Questions and comments? final slide should be coming up momentarily.
Yeah, well, the internet connection.
Here we go. Questions and comments may be directed to me, or written comments can be submitted to the town clerk, and we'd ask to receive comments within the next 2 weeks. That concludes the presentation.
Okay, any questions from town board? It's a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing on this application to New York State Office of Community Rural Community Development Block Grant, and the purpose is to extend sewer for the benefit of the Montcalm Apartments, as well as possibly the other entities that are in that area, the school system, for example. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was my question. Come on up and tell us your name.
Yeah, if you would, identify yourself, please.
My name is Paul Frasco. I'm 3 Centennial Drive, Queensbury. If we have other people tying in the school and the other businesses, how's the cost going to be split up?
Well, once we see some interest involved in that, I assume that the grant and their contributions will pay for the service. Now, should it need upgraded to accommodate others, I think the town would have to put in for that. But again, it would be a district in which the district and whoever wants to tie in would ultimately have to
Because
work out
ultimately,
some arrangement.
ultimately, it could affect our school taxes, though not much. It's
Yeah,
still a
but,
possibility.
we are proposing use school property, so we might be able to work out some kind of.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yet to be determined, but, yeah, good question. Anybody else? All right, let me see in the Zoom world. Anybody like to call in a question or share a thought? Area code 518-761-8225. See anybody, Ted?
Nope, we're good.
Whatever that was.
Because you
Guess
get
that
those
was the
again.
public comment.
I'd like to just make one final request. If you haven't signed in on the sign-in sheet, please do so. It will help us document attendance at this public hearing. That needs to be submitted with the application. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further interest from the public to speak to this matter, I'll close the public hearing. And that's all we have, right?
You have Resolution 2.1 to consider.
All right, Resolution 2.1. Will you read that to the public, please, Karen?
Sure. Resolution authorizing submission of application for community development block grant funds through New York State Office of Community Renewal.
For all the reasons just explained.
Also, you want a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it.
Motion made by Councilperson Freer, seconded by Councilperson Barone. Roll call vote on this, please, Karen?
And Councilperson McNulty?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Okay, passes. Thank you, Stu, and safe drive back. And thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we go on to the resolutions. There are 15 resolutions before us because I'm pulling one. I'm pulling Resolution 411. The engagement of Pete's Lawn Care for 210 Sunnyside Road because they did get out and mow the lawn. All right. So that leaves us with 15 resolutions. This part of the meeting, I will briefly describe each of the 15 resolutions before us tonight and give the public an opportunity to share their thoughts on any of the resolutions I will soon describe. Now, if there is a town topic you wish to speak to the town board about and it's not related to the resolution, I will give you that opportunity following the resolution part, okay? But this part is strictly to the resolution. So we'll go through them. 4.1, please, Karen.
Resolution authorizing amendment to 2021-2022 transportation agreement between City of Glens Falls and Town of Queensbury to contribute to Greater Glens Falls Transit System's bike share program.
All right, well, we already put in $59,137 annually to the Greater Glens Falls Transportation for the buses and so forth. That's a contribution that we make. Other municipalities make contributions of similar kind. This is increasing this year's contribution by $2,500 because we agreed to put forward $2,500 to the bike share program, which was already underway and already tremendously successful. So this is an agreement to contribute another $2,500 to a bike share program, which had a total cost of $25,000, and the county put in, the city put in, and business entities have put in for that to make it happen. And Queensbury share is $2,500. 4.2, please.
Resolution requesting speed limit reduction for entire length of Chestnut Ridge Road.
All right, the chairperson of the Road Safety Committee is Councilperson George Barone, and he has had requests from some of the residents to reduce the speed limit on Chestnut Ridge Road, which is currently 40 miles per hour, to 30 miles per hour. So it will have to go through the gamut from here. It's not an easy thing that's done. There are people that request that we reduce the speed limit lower than 30. However, the town is only allowed to reduce speed limits to 30 unless it's a school. We can go to 25. Now, you might claim that you see speed limits for 20 miles per hour here and there. That's probably in the city of Glens Falls or other cities where they are allowed to go down to 20 miles per hour. We're not, 30. So Chestnut Ridge Road, and if you're familiar with it, you probably don't go much over 30 anyways. It is a very residential, narrow road, and the residents love to walk it, and they feel that 40 miles an hour is not safe. Anything else, George?
No, that's it,
Okay.
thank you.
4.3, please, Karen.
Resolution requesting Lake George Park Commission to develop framework for lake-wide septic inspection program.
Yeah, so as you know, there's a lot of requests to ask the Lake George Park Commission. Actually, it's asking New York State. The Lake George Park Commission, I think, has the will, it has the mechanisms, but it doesn't have the funding. The current funding formula for the Lake George Park Commission is very restrictive. It's fees, boat fees, other fees. And it does give it enough money to be able to monitor and patrol the lake for public safety reasons. It also helps manage the boat inspection program, but the county and Lake George, the town of Bolton, the town of Queensbury all contribute to the funding for that. So this is a resolution requesting the Lake George Park Commission develop a framework, which they've already started. It just shows their town board support for that, for some kind of a lake-wide septic inspection program. So they've set up a committee to look into the matter. And Dave Wick, who is a great person, and also the executive director of the Lake George Park Commission, wants to gather as much scientific information on this as possible. In other words, if we can make a good case that septic systems are contributing to the pollution levels of Lake George, I think the biggest concern is the phosphorus. But nitrogen levels is also a concern, ask Carol Collins. And as well as pathogens. As you know, they recently had to close down the $1 Million Beach, so-called $1 Million Beach. All right, this is a resolution saying the town board would support some kind of lake-wide inspection system. The best entity to be able to do that, if they were funded, would be the Lake George Park Commission. 4.4, please introduce that to the public, Karen.
Resolution authorizing hiring of Michelle Maynard as transfer station attendant.
Okay, we needed a new full-time position to replace another person who retired out of the system. Michelle Maynard is the person who was interviewed and liked best by Rich Paris, who is the superintendent of our solid waste department here at town, which you may know of as the transfer stations. 4.6.
What about 4.5? Resolution approving year 2020 service award program records for Queensbury volunteer fire companies.
Yes. So we're very fortunate in the town of Queensbury to have a very affordable fire protection system. We have 5 fire companies. They are volunteer. Other municipalities have had to go to full pay, and you know what that means. We have very professional volunteers who give up a lot of their time. So in exchange, we put $700 aside per year, and we're looking at adding to that. But currently it's $700 a year if you gain 50 or more points. Now, if you're a volunteer, to gain 50 points, that means you have to put in a heck of a lot of time. You have to put in time for training, you have to put in time driving the vehicles, working on equipment, helping to keep the building up, the list goes on. You get awarded points for all the input you do. And again, it earns you $700 a year towards a retirement account. So you have to get 50 points. So this is a list of volunteers who have earned 50 or more points and are entitled to get 1 year's credit for our service award program. 4.6.
Resolution authorizing engagement of Cheap Pete's Lawn Care for one-time cleanup and mowing of abandoned or neglected property at 28 Old Bay Road.
All right, unless they fix it up before we get there, we'll have Cheap Pete clean it up. And so it'll be a cost of one-time cleanup, $475, 2 monthly lawn mowings at $60 per month, in other words, $30 per lawn mowing, for a total of 4 months, not to exceed $750, unless they get to it first, and we won't have to bother. We add that to their taxes, so they pay it. I don't know why they don't do it, but, all right, 4.7, please, Karen.
Resolution authorizing local tourism promotion and convention development agreement with Under the Woods Foundation, Inc. for Churney Gurney Festival.
All right, they're asking for $4,500 of our tax money because they organize and present, I'll explain who they is, the Churney Gurney Festival. This is a mountain bike event. It's races, other activities. It's huge. 5 years ago, we had like 70 participants. And I think it's tripled. It's become huge. People from all over, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Ohio, come to this event. If you don't know, the mountain bike trails at Gurney Lane are claimed to be one of New York State's finest mountain bike trails. And we have trails, in case you're interested, for the beginner, for the intermediate, and the expert. They're color-coded. There's maps all over. The trails are color-coded. And people rave about this. So we have this big event. And that's nice because it brings in people from all over New England and nearby, and that brings money into Queensbury. So that's good. We're going to get a lot more than $4,500 out of it. But here's the better thing. All the profits from this event go to Camp Under the Woods. I got to give credit to Bob and Heidi Underwood. They put this together. This is a camp. Camp Under the Woods is what they call it. It's off of Meadowbrook Road. And it's a camp for youth who are differently abled. Yes, it is autism related, young people, and this gives them one heck of a great experience. So there's so many good reasons why this $4,500 is a great investment. That's what I think. I believe the town board's 100% backing me on this one. I can't always say that, but I think for this one, I can. 4.8, please.
Resolution consenting to town planning board being designated as lead agency regarding Chris Resicott's site application 35-2021.
All right, there is 14 unit, 2-story townhouse building being proposed on a little over an acre of land on a lot labeled 20 Newcomb Street. Now this is going to go before the planning board. Now there's an involved agency, that being the town board, because they're also asking for a sewer extension. So we're going to be involved. So in terms of seeker, when you have cooperating entities, it is, I think, in my opinion, better if you have one be the lead agency. And this is a resolution to give the planning board lead agency status for seeker. That's where they do the state environmental quality review. They look at the impacts this project will have on the community. The planning board does that best. And I think they're going to be much more thorough and in-depth at taking a look at this proposal than we would be. Our only existence is to consider, if this goes forward, as the sewer extension. All right, so this resolution is appointing the planning board as the lead agency for seeker review. 4.9.
Resolution appointing Jackson Lasarso and Brady Stark as alternate members of the Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Boy, are these two young people impressive. This board asked for applicants to what was at the time an opening as a zoning board of appeals alternate. We have 7 regular members and 2 alternates. The alternates come into play when one of the regular members can't participate for whatever reason, sickness, illness, vacation. So if we asked them to be at most of the meetings, we asked them to get familiar with the cases, because they may have to come up, they meet in this very same room. So the Zoning Board of Appeals does 2 things. It does use variances and area variances. Use variance is where the code doesn't allow that particular use in the zone. So they can appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals. It's very difficult to get a use variance because you have to prove monetary reasons for it. There's criteria listed, and perhaps Councilperson Freer would elaborate, but it's, because he was on the ZBA, it's very difficult. Now, your area variances are, you're in a situation that perhaps doesn't meet town code, but you have a unique situation. You know, you got a lot that's not square like the world wants, or rectangular, it's triangular. And there's no way you could put the house there and meet the side setbacks from the property lines on the side. You couldn't do it. And it really isn't bothering anybody. So you can make your case before the Zoning Board of Appeals for an area variance, and, you know, they can give you one if they think you're providing a good case. But it's an opportunity for the public to have fairness in our code. All right, so you take a look at these 2 individuals, Jackson Lasarso and Brady Stark. I think we did pretty good. They're both energetic, youthful men who they want to be involved in everything. They want to know everything. They want to be involved and do things for the community. They want to do this for all the right reasons. So I guess you know I'm going to vote, but I think I'm not going to be alone on this board. 4.10,
Resolution appointing current alternate member P. Brett McDevitt as regular member of the Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Brett McDevitt. He was one of the alternates. One of the alternates left. Now that left Brett McDevitt as the alternate. So there's an opening. There's one of the regular members have left, which created 2 zoning board openings for alternates. And so the only alternate that was left, now there's an opening for a regular member, and that is Brett McDevitt. And he's an outstanding man. I could call him young, but he's a mature age, but not my mature age. But I would call him youngish. And Michelle Hayward is the regular member that left, so this is a resolution to appoint him to regular town board of appeals member. 411, we're pulling. Demote it. 412.
Resolution to amend 2021 town budget.
All right, so this is $50,000 to put into legal counsel for the other category. And just FYI, you see the 09 on the end of the code number? That is everything that goes to the Jenkinsville issue that we started this meeting with will go to that 09 category. So if you look and you see something with the 09 at the end, that means it's going to, so that we look at the expenses involved in that. 413.
Resolution authorizing adoption of June 2021 Town of Queensbury COVID-19 pandemic response plan.
And I'm hoping, do you think this could be the last one we have to put together?
Sure hope so.
I do too. Maybe there won't be any resolution to approve July's COVID plan for the town of Queensbury. But, you know, our COVID plans have been, I know of no employee from the town of Queensbury who got COVID because we weren't doing something right and they got COVID. No, we put a plan together. The department heads helped put this plan together. We've been doing this for 14 months now, and I'm hoping not 15. So this is the month of June COVID-19 pandemic response plan for the town of Queensbury. 414, please, Karen.
Resolution regarding undertaking of site characterization, remedial investigation, feasibility study of Queensbury landfill located at 1396 Ridge Road.
Okay, it reads, whereas the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has recently identified the town of Queensbury landfill property located at 1396 Ridge Road, Queensbury, as a possible source of contamination, and has advised that this site should be the subject of site characterization, remedial investigation, feasibility study, and whereas DEC has therefore requested that the town either agree to undertake the site characterization, remedial investigation, feasibility study, or consent to DEC doing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town Queensbury Town Board hereby, and it is one or the other, consents to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation undertaking, or agrees to undertake the site characterization, remedial investigation, feasibility study of the town of Queensbury landfill property located at 1396 Ridge Road, Queensbury. And then the last resolve is authorize and directs me to do the wishes of this town board. So, I think it's been made clear, unless there's a change of mind, that we are consenting to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation undertaking.
Yes.
So, Karen.
You want to call a separate vote for this one, or?
No, we don't need to, we just need to cross out
Okay.
one or the other, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this one is, we are consenting to New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to undertake
Everything
the
after or
site
gets-
characterization, remedial investigation, feasibility study.
And delete the or.
Or,
Yeah.
Right, all you're doing is crossing out the brackets themselves and the words or agrees to undertake.
Right, so
Okay, she's
scratch,
shaking her head yet up and down, that's good.
I got it.
we're scratching the or agrees to undertake.
Right.
And we are keeping the consent to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation doing the undertaking for what I've said.
Right.
Okay. And so 415, please.
Resolution approving audits of bill warrants of May 26, 2021, and June 8th of 2021.
All right, totaling $368,672.62 and $1,015,660.01 respectively. That's the bills. 416,
Resolution authorizing hiring of John Smith to assist in gathering infrastructure data for implementation of Public Works Asset Management cartograph software.
all right. So John Smith, he's a retiree from the Highway Department, and his main task was maintaining the stormwater facilities. We have, I think, over 3,000 of them. And as storms grow, so do our stormwater problem. We need to get these into software. I was in a situation off of Bay Road here. There was flooding. And I said, what's causing the flooding? Well, we don't know. I said, well, where are the facilities? Where are the culverts? Where's the drains? We don't know. They're under the water something. I said, well, chances are they're clogged. If we knew where they were, we'd be able to get a boat, get there, grappling hook, get them clear. I could give you many other examples. So we've already paid for the software cartograph, which is going to, among other things, we have parts inventory and everything else this cartograph is going to help us with. But my number one thing is to document these stormwater facilities, read what condition they are, when do they need to be maintained. Some of them need annual maintenance. Some of them need annual inspections. Which ones have been inspected? Which ones have been maintained? It's, you know, John Smith used to do this because he had it all up here. All right, we need software so that when I'm standing in the field, I can take out a pad, which will identify where I'm standing, and I will ask it to tell me where all the stormwater facilities are and how they're functioning, and how they're supposed to be functioning. In other words, where are the flows going? Because we ran into that problem over the Bay Bridge. I went over there with John Smith. I said, we've got a problem here. We've got some flooding. He says, well, what you have is the system coming down the hill, and it all goes, see that depression over there? I said, yeah, it's just lawn. Do you know what I mean? Underneath there is where they all connect, and they come down here. I says, well, how come they're all connecting? And how come they're being all sent to this one spot? He said, this is the way they did it. I said, John, we need to do this better because it's causing flooding. But I wouldn't know that unless John explained that to me. So, you know, so John Smith, we're going to pay him $30 an hour. He's going to work part-time. He said he can work a couple hours in the late part of the day or maybe Saturdays. All right, fine. He's going to get us started in showing us where these stormwater facilities are located and assess the facility. In other words, what condition are they in? Do they need maintenance? If so, how often? What kind of maintenance do they need? Do they need any attention immediately? This will all be documented. So we've already done a test run of this, of everything over connected to Bay Road, but on the west side of Bay Road, going from the town office down to Bay Bridge, just as a test, and it worked well. So I'm gonna have John and Stuart Tech GPS guy go up and do the Glen Lake watershed next. Now, you're probably wondering why. The reason is that Glen Lake and the town board has initiated a cooperative agreement to do a study. Let me explain why we're doing that. All right, every year we go to the DEC up in Lawrence. And Glen Lake has an invasive species control district. They get taxed for it. And so some of the ways in which they control milfoil and pondweed and some of the other invasives are chemical. DEC's not crazy about the use of chemicals, even though over the years they've become very specific. They have some chemicals that attack just the milfoil. But DEC said to us, every year coming to us, and you know what? We're concerned about the habitat. You know, are we maintaining a healthy habitat for the fish? The plant life. Do you have diversity like you should have? I mean, milfoil is one thing, and you know what? Milfoil is not entirely all bad. It's just bad in the sense that it's an invasive and doesn't have any control system because it's an invasive. So it can take over and ruin the diversity of an ecology. So you have to manage it. So the DEC said, now wait a minute, we're just doing this piecemeal. Is there anything contributing to the nutrient level in that lake that's contributing to the growth of these invasives? We know they're there, and we don't want any more there. We want to manage the ones that are there. But upland, stormwater, septic systems inspections. Are there any other entities for the inlets, related to the inlets, to Glen Lake, that might be contributing to pollution levels? So what we're going to do, we initiated, we put an RFQ out, we put an RFP out. We chose Chazen Companies as the company that's going to work with us in developing a comprehensive, integrated Glen Lake watershed management plan. So now you don't have to ask me, why are you picking Glen Lake as the next place to pick out and identify the stormwater facilities? Because we can use it in the study that we're going to do for Glen Lake. And it'll become a part of our record, knowing where these stormwater facilities are located and how they're managed, what they're supposed to do. Okay, so those are the 15 resolutions before the town board. Anybody from the public like to speak to any of the resolutions before this town board tonight? Anybody present? Anybody Zoom? I don't see anybody, Tim. Nope. Anybody call in? YouTube? 518-761-8225. All right, while we're waiting for the public to maybe input in resolution, I'll give them the opportunity once they signify an interest to do so. Any thoughts on any of the resolutions from the town board? Any be polled for a roll call vote?
I think I spoke to John Smith as well. I was amazed. He was, oh yes, it's underneath the ground there. I was just amazed. It's all memorized. So he's definitely the right guy to do that job.
Yeah. So, okay. Seeing no further interest on behalf of the public to speak to any of the 15 resolutions before us tonight, keeping in mind, I know there's 16 listed, but 414 was pulled because they didn't mow their lawn. So, does anybody want to put forward a resolution to approve 4.1 through 416 minus 414?
No, it's
Minus 411.
411. 411. Oh, I had 414 circled because we had to do something then. Thank you
414
for
there.
correcting me. 411 we're pulling. So anybody want to put forward a resolution to approve for 1, for 2, for 3, for 4, for 5, for 6, for 7, for 8, for 9, for 10, for 12, for 13, 14, and 15, and 16?
So moved.
Put a motion to approve by Councilperson Ferone, seconded by Councilperson Freer. Roll call vote on the resolutions, please.
Councilperson Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
McNulty?
Yes.
Okay. I worked all day. All right, any correspondence?
I just have the supervisor's report for the month of May from Community Development and Building and Codes will be on file in the town clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is privilege to the floor. Anybody who wishes to speak to the town board about any town topic, this is the opportunity to do so. Sir? Please identify yourself for the record and go ahead and share your thoughts.
My name is Paul Frasco on 3 Centennial Drive, Queensbury. I have a problem on my property that was addressed by the board, by you, the supervisor.
3 Centennial, right?
3 Centennial, yes. I had a site visit, my driveway floods because of the drainage from the road. Forms an ice pond. I've fallen every year for the last 3 years. The site visit said that it was going to be fixed. That was in 2019. Still not fixed. That's the first part of the problem. I'd like to see it done. The second part of the problem I think is more important. It's communication. No matter what I do, I cannot get this town to respond to me. Recently, as recently as last week, I visited your office, and I visited the superintendent of the highways. I didn't expect a reply out of Mr. Shaw's office because I said it wasn't necessary, but I did expect the superintendent to contact me. Now, we're going from, this started in 2018. We made a decision in 2019. Along comes COVID, I understand that, but it's 2021, and I don't want to fall again. I don't want to pick my wife up off the ground. That's to get to my mailbox, which I have to do. And I just get the job done. I'm not asking that you do it tomorrow. I'm not asking that you do it in July. Just get it done before October. I think that's a pretty fair window on my part. But I would like to have some feedback from the person that's doing the work and when it's going to get done. And that's all I ask. I brought the letters that I originally submitted. You each got a letter, but not everybody was I believe, a council person at the time. So I'm going to leave it for your information. There's at least 10 instances where I either came to visit, where I called or contacted, and I got no response from anyone. And I don't find that acceptable. So I'm going to walk away, and hopefully I'll hear from you soon. I left a message.
I was going to say, the 2019 visit, I think you and I did.
Yeah, you did that. You were here, and with Mr. Dool.
Mr. Dool.
And we decided that, yeah, it was the town's problem.
Right.
Now, and that's supposed to take care of 3 Centennial and 5 Centennial, because those people are, they're in their 80s, one of them died. But they have the same problem. But now it's, the neighbors are starting to identify themselves. There's 2 more houses that have the same problem.
It's all over the town.
Yeah, okay,
All
but
over the town.
I don't bounce well at 74 years old.
Well, what happens, the driveways, you know, at one time, they were level with the road.
Mm-hmm.
Then we added pavement to the road. Now, what happens is the water washes off the pavement, and your driveways are the same as they always have been, but now the road's higher, so now you get ponding, and you're probably all familiar with it. Now you get ponding right between the road and some number of feet up your driveway.
Exactly.
It's all over town. Anyhow, I do remember the site visit, and Dave said he would look into resolving it. So I will.
Yeah, well, that was the last we heard from him.
George will follow up. We'll make sure we follow
Okay.
up.
Was that instance that you're talking about is the last contact I had with that man.
Okay.
All right, and that's not acceptable in my book. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming. Any town map? Anybody else? Anybody Zoom? Anybody YouTube? 518-761-8225. All right, well, if they do call, then we'll take the call. Or if there's a Zoom, we'll take the Zoom. But I don't see anything right now, do you, Tim? No. Let's do town board discussions. Let's start with Tim.
Yeah. Thank you. I know it's
Did I
good.
start with you last time?
I don't remember. It's been such a long night. It's been a long night. I just, one plug, met with the Sean Phillip Jones, who's the vice president at Hudson Headwaters, took a tour of their Cary Road campus. Hudson Headwaters is one of the, if not the biggest employee in Ward 4, and they're expanding. They've got expanding plans to expand 3 new facilities on Western Road. Some movement of some of their activities, but this will be new jobs, jobs with benefits that we've been talking about from a town board perspective. They're going to announce the plans, so I don't want to get too far ahead of them, but we appreciate all the caregivers, especially, in the light of the end of the tunnel of COVID. Hudson Headwaters was there from day one, and it continued to support the community. But they're outreaching, and they're looking to invest more in Queensbury, and I applaud their efforts, and I hope the town board would as well. That's all I've got tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. George?
Just a report on a couple of, Ward 3 projects. I was looking at the Chazen report, but we do have the crosswalk that's going in on Aviation Road by Potter Road for the connection to the 2 trails. And I do see a lot of people crossing the road there, so I think that's going to be in the next 6 weeks or so that'll be a positive thing. And I do know we have the ongoing project of a sidewalk from Our Lady Annunciation over to Cottage Hill. When we put the light in, we thought it was a good idea to put a sidewalk in there, and I know that Chazen is still working on that as well, so.
Yeah, well, they're done with that. We still need the permission of one of the property owners, and Bob Hafner's going to look into that. I'm wanting to follow through, and, they agreed to do it.
Yeah.
So he just needs to get the paperwork done.
Exactly.
We have gone out to solicit some, prices. Everyone's so busy right now.
I know.
And they don't want a little job like this.
Yeah.
And obviously by the price they gave us. In the fall, things perhaps should quiet down and perhaps get better, and we may take a look at doing some things that time and materials based on a contract the county sent out for these construction activities. So hopefully we'll get it in before winter sets.
Yes, it'd be nice.
Anything else, George?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Harrison?
So, this hot couple of days reminds me that, we are in a climate change situation, and I've been getting interest in developing a climate action plan, so I think we have to get that in our job jar somewhere to be more resilient and for climate activities and more sustainable. I know that's some of the things that are going to go in our comprehensive land use plan request for proposal that we're working on, but just wanted to mention that. As some of you may have heard that right now we have 66% of New York adults COVID at least one shot. The governor says when we get to 70, he's going to remove all COVID restrictions. So if you don't want to do a plan in July, I encourage everybody you know to go get a COVID shot. And then finally, I'd just like to compliment you, especially John, but the whole team. And I know, Tim, you were also part of the committee on a great Memorial Day presentation celebration at the Cools Arena. I think it went very well. I know we were all disappointed in the parade, but I think that whole celebration and Memorial Day activity was really the right thing to do, and I'm glad that you got to do it, and I'm glad it went so well. So congratulations and thank you on a super event.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if you were at the victory ceremony, but I think there was more people there than there were in the Civic Center. I was amazed how many
It's hard
people
to
at
tell,
that.
but the
Yeah.
Civic Center's so big.
But that was just as well attended. It was done as well. So, yeah, Johnny did a outstanding job.
Yeah, and darn it, if we waited 2 weeks, probably could have had this parade, huh? And, you know, we started organizing this in February. And so it takes a long time to get all the pieces together for a parade as big as we have. And that's part of the problems. The cutoff point between having huge amount of paperwork, liability, and responsibility was an expected attendance of 5,000. If it was below that, you didn't have to go through the hoops and everything that you had to if it's above that. Our parade is really popular. So popular, in fact, people are disappointed about the Memorial Day parade, and they said, how about a Veterans Day parade? I didn't say no, you know me, that's part of my problem, is I can't say no. We'll see, maybe a small one. I don't know.
So
The people really want a parade.
the other, it's a tradition that we miss, you know, we missed it last year, and I did predict to my wife as we sat and watched Congresswoman Stefanik make her presentation that I thought there would be a baby announcement coming, and there was today, so that was interesting. That's it for me. I'll stop there.
That's $1 million question you never want to ask anybody.
Anything else, Harrison?
Nope.
Thank you.
I have nothing to add, except I was going to just mention the parade as well, and the ceremony itself. I thought you did a great job. So,
But, Tony, you did see confirmation about the...
So, I was in with John last week, and we were talking about his dog walking excursion, and that he saw 3 lights in the sky. And of course, John's a little bit, he's losing his mind and all, so, but lo and behold, last night, I was, I have to find out where I was, but I was somewhere online, and sure enough, there's documentation out there that there's something going on in the sky. It's 3 lights with a trail, with a trailing 4th light. They're in perfect line and distance, and they follow the, what did you call it?
They went through, you know,
Yeah.
way up in the sky. They look like they're part of the stars, and they look like they're moving stars, and they went from the southwest to the northeast, from horizon to horizon, in just a short amount of time.
That's Elon Musk's satellite.
No, I read that today, because I promised John I would have something for him. I have to find where I saw this, but sure enough, other people have seen the same things. They can't explain it. It was not Elon Musk's, but they talked about that, because you could see his thing taking off from New Mexico or something like that. But this is here in the Northeast, and sure enough, it exists. So if anybody out there knows anything about it, please share with us what the heck's going on. At first, when I read this thing last night, they were talking about that you were not allowed to talk about it, but then they said you can, and they weren't going to put everybody in prison that saw it, so you're safe. And, but yeah, if anybody knows anything about these 3 lights in the sky, please share with us, because it's driving me crazy.
Well, John, we talked about getting the town militia together to protect our border along the lake.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should call out the militia for these UFOs as well.
Yes.
You got the musket, right?
I got the musket ready.
You guys got to keep your motorcycle helmets looser.
1755. Here we go. All right. You know, I have Eagle Scout mentoring pins on because I used the same jacket Saturday as I went to Sean Manning's Eagle Scout Court of Honor and spoke there and presented a plaque on behalf of the town board to the great effort. And what he did was he re-landscaped the entryway and created benches for the entryway for the Caldwell Presbyterian Church in Lake George, among a slew of other things he's done for the community. You know, so I enjoy going to those Eagle Scout ceremonies. Yes, the Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony was good. I'd like to thank Tim for helping out and Mayor Dan Hall, Dan Steck, and Elise Stefanik spoke, Carl Fosco, Tim Benner. They're part of the committee. Pastor John Tether did the invocation and benediction. Taps was done by Colin Ortruba and Samuel Rowley. You know, and we had Olivia Vanderpool and Rachel Beth Mannix read their winning essays. You know, people who went to the ceremony said they very much enjoyed it. If you didn't get the opportunity to see it, Peter Pape Production is part of his community thing. He filmed both that ceremony and the unveiling of the new monument ceremony at the Victory and Peace Monument in front of the YMCA. So he filmed both of those. You can go, I think, through the town's website or through the town's YouTube site or the city's, or can they get it through Pape Productions website? So if you wish to see it, and I did see it, even though I was there, seeing it like being part of the audience, I think it was very good. And again, Memorial Day, our theme was this, and I think it sums up Memorial Day, that our flag waves for those who never wavered. Yeah. Veterans Day is for the veterans. Memorial Day are for the veterans that are no longer with us. And we benefit from that, and so every day should be Memorial Day. I get it. But this highlights the fact that we shouldn't forget. And that's why we do the public outreach program with high schools and the poster contest and the essays, so that the younger people don't lose the meaning of what Memorial Day is all about. All right, so Chris Harrington. He is our water superintendent and wastewater director. He got a 5-year Director's Award, Town of Queensbury Wastewater Treatment Plant, in recognition for your commitment to superior water quality. The Partnership for Safe Water is sponsored by the American Water Works Association, Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, Association of State Drinking Water Administrators, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, National Association of Water Companies, and the Water Research Foundation. So congratulations to Chris Harrington, our own Queensbury's Chris Harrington, for the Town of Queensbury Water Treatment Plant. Also, just an announcement, and I'm reading these things as they come up in my folder here. If you've got household waste, you have one more opportunity to take it someplace, responsibly take it someplace, and that is July 24th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on 428 Main Street, Warrensburg. We already had one in Queensbury, it was very busy, but if you didn't make that one, which was April 24th, there's one more. July 24th, it's a Saturday, 9 to 2, Warren County DPW, up on Main Street in Warrensburg. So your antifreeze, your pesticides, your oil-based paints, your corrosive cleaners, your fluorescent bulbs, things like that. You're looking to get rid of them and do it responsibly, this is the thing to do. Okay. I have one more announcement and then we'll close the meeting. Okay. New York Planning Federation said that Glens Falls attorney Mark Schachtner, and he doesn't know I'm doing this, although he's on now, has been elected first vice president of the New York Planning Federation. So Mr. Schachtner, senior principal attorney of Miller, Manick, Schachtner, and Hafner in Glens Falls, Round Lake, concentrates his practice in municipal environmental land use and planning zoning law, said the release. This is the Post-Star. It said, I think it's Post-Star. Is it, or was it the Chronicle? I should have put it down. Well, whatever. The important thing is recognition for who he is, and I think well-deserved. It said that he and his colleagues represent approximately 24 municipalities in Essex, Franklin, Fulton, Hamilton, Herkimer, Saratoga, Warren, Washington counties, and serves as counsel to the Adirondack Association of Towns and Villages, Saratoga County Water Authority, Glover's Johnstown Joint Sewer Board, Glens Falls Open Door Mission, Saratoga County Economic Opportunity, and Mr. Schachtner is a graduate of Brown University and Boston University School of Law, and as well as one of New York State's most recognized environmental attorneys. And he is on our Jenkinsville team, as well as Mark Bean and John Muncie and Tom Board and the folks from Jenkinsville. You're on our team too. So, all right, that's it for me tonight. What a night. Huh? Boy, I wish I could take tomorrow off, but I can't. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
VFW Flag Day ceremony this Saturday at VFW Post 6196, 11 o'clock. If you have flags that are have served their purpose of serving our nation and they're worn or in disrepair, you can bring them to the VFW. In fact, you don't have to wait till the ceremony. The doors open in the front, and we'll deal with them appropriately. So Saturday at 11 o'clock.
Okay, thanks for the announcement. Anything else? See, I'm glad I do for the good of the order thing.
There you go.
Sometimes you're not so sure, you think I'm okay here. All right, motion to adjourn would be appreciated.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Perone, seconded by?
Second. All those in favor?
Councilman McNulty. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Answer.
Meeting over. Thank you, everybody, for attending.